So,
Ready for the intro?
yep, go ahead.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
This show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. These are the voyages of the GNT show. Our continuing mission to explore Star Trek storytelling, to seek out new worlds and interesting characters, to boldly go where no show has gone before. Live long and prosper, bitches.
And good morning, it's April 23rd, 2017. This is episode...
275.
What?
275.
275?
Yes.
It's not 265? The last I knew we were at like 263. How did we jump forward?
275. It is 275, according to mine.
Wow, I think I was hibernating then.
We secretly replaced Nick with some Folgers crystals and wondered if you would notice.
If you could taste the difference. It's episode 275. I'm Gettysburg 7, coming to you from the Maryland studios of Busy Little Beaver Productions. There he is in the glass encased nerve center in an undisclosed location in New Mexico. It's Ceridium.
My bomb shelter zombie apocalypse hideout is awesome.
His undisclosed location in Placitas, New Mexico.
Yes.
Which so happens to be.
I have GPS coordinates around here somewhere. No, actually, I'm having a wonderful time hanging out with sick dogs. But yes, I am in New Mexico. So hi, everybody.
And that voice you hear, that the golden tones, the silky tones that you hear, joining us while Terry is out smuggling drugs across the borders, is Jesfa.
Good morning. Yes, I'm here with my dulcet tones. So how is everybody? It's been
like
so
butter.
long, and I missed you.
It's like butter.
It's like butter, totally. It's spreadable.
I have missed having you, hearing you every week, Jespa. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind of you.
And also joining us, he's running the controls from his undisclosed location in a bomb shelter in somewhere in England or the United Kingdom. Which would you prefer, UK or England?
Either.
Jesus Christ. It's the year of being nice to Steve. It's Steve.
Hello.
Midnight Shadow for those playing the home edition.
Welcome, Steve. Thank you. You are such a great big help for taking over the board and making me look bad on the air.
Happy to do so.
Oh, Mike, you look bad on your own. You don't need to worry about that.
Okay.
Oh!
Jeez. So it's been a while since I've been here because last week we weren't here because it was Easter Sunday and you know, we try not to step on the holidays and things like that.
I was traveling
Passover,
too.
so Jesfa, you know, happy to you.
Yeah, it was Passover. We finally got rid of them. It's we used it to plug a hole in the roof. It's very useful for that.
Oh my.
And the week before, I was celebrating my my first wedding anniversary with my beautiful bride. So, yeah, no offense to you all, but I went to spend the time with her.
Right on. Oh, happy
Congratulations.
anniversary.
Oh, thank you. So, we're going to sit down. Does everybody have the coffee? Does everybody get the coffee? Okay, good. Mikey, do you want sugar with that, or are you off the sugar? Do you need the Splenda, the Equal? Do you need something?
You got any sugar in that coffee?
I'm good.
Okay, he's good. It's been interesting. I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately. Like, for some reason, it's been like documentary time. And I watched all 3 documentaries about the West Memphis 3. You guys seen those? Paradise Lost?
I do not know who or what they are.
It's in West Memphis, Arkansas, were convicted, and one of them was put on death row for the murder of 3 little 8-year-old boys based on nothing but circumstantial evidence, and
Ugh.
because of things like, well, he wore all black and he listened to heavy metal, so he's a Satan worshiper.
Oh, so lots of jumping to conclusions, lots of pushing on the jury, and probably a lot of, hey, we have somebody in custody, so we better convict him so we look good because it looks like we've caught the killer.
Yeah, and Janet as I think you're a lawyer. I'm not sure. During
Not just by training.
during the
I got the wheels taken off.
during the press conference, the first press conference, they asked the lead, the investigator, on a scale of 1 to 10, how solid's the evidence, and he said an 11. Oh yeah, that's not poisoning the jury pool.
Oh, not one bit. But with all fairness, he never should have been asked that question. Although, it's not the press's job to make him, do ethical things, and hold back like he's freaking supposed to.
Right. So it's 3 documentaries. It's Paradise Lost. All 3 of them are Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost 2 and 3, and they were HBO documentaries. And Janet, you should watch them because as a lawyer, I think you would be. Yeah, and
Fascinated, disgusted,
right.
Scared.
Disgusted would be the word. Sunsail's absolutely right. The lengths that they went to keep him on death row, even though DNA exonerated him. Matter of fact, the only DNA found at the scene, pointed to somebody else who, you just have to see it because it's crazy. And then I watched Killing Richard Glossop. I don't know if you've heard of that. There's a 4-point thing on 4-part thing on Discovery ID about a guy on Oklahoma's death row who there's even less evidence than the other one. And boy, they are just bound and determined to kill him.
Wow.
There's a really heavy vindictive streak in a lot of DA's offices, and it's I can't say it's 100% unjustified because the public, when there's a horrific crime, usually a murder or a rape, it's almost always one or the other. The public is out for blood. They're really upset, and and they want to do something. The district attorney's office, they really do want to do something, and I get the impulse there, but at the same time, the urge to get this all neatly wrapped up with a bow is utterly in contradiction to someone's rights. Personally, I'm not 100% against the death penalty, but I do think that in death row cases, there should be evidence. There should be DNA evidence every time.
Now, yeah. Now, of course, 20 years ago, that would have been, it's interesting when you watch these documentaries to see how far in how short a period of time we've come in the scientific advancements of DNA and everything else, to match people up like that. And what the hell was I watching? I forget what it was, but they were like, there were no cell phones back when something happened, so you couldn't just call it. It's amazing to see the advances in 20 years.
And
Yep.
and it helps now. I mean, we have cell phone cameras too. We have things that we never would have dreamed of 20 years ago.
Yeah, United Airlines is ruining the day that the cell phone camera was invented.
Yeah, well, American too, apparently.
I know. I posted that yesterday. Thank you.
What happened with American? I'm sorry, I've been out of the loop.
There was a woman boarding the plane, and she had a stroller. and a kid, and she had another baby in the carry, the car seat.
Yeah.
And the flight attendant told her that she could put the stroller above this, in the overhead compartment. And she was trying to, and another one came in and was like, "No, you can't have that," and grabbed it out of her hands and hit her in the head, and was yelling at her. And then he like tried to get in fist fights with other people on the plane.
What the?
Yeah, we're really, really not well trained. Let's just put it that way. Not well trained.
Like I said on my Facebook post, I think American called United and said, "Relax, bro. I got it this week."
Here, hold my beer.
Yeah. And, Sunsale, just for getting to what you were talking about, Sunsale is absolutely correct. By the way, Sunsale, how you doing? It's very Cardassian, isn't it? Justice is served in the visual conviction and remorse of the criminal. I think the biggest problem we have in our country, well, one of them, in the justice system, is people have forgotten guilty until proven innocent until proven guilty, and they think, well, they've been charged, they must be guilty.
Oh yeah, it's a very big presumption. It's a heavy presumption, and well, hell, it used to be legal to used to be that you could present the defendant in prison orange and with the cuffs and all that stuff, pretty much throughout the proceedings. I mean,
And the optics of that are just the worst.
In Soviet Russia, and in not so Soviet Russia anymore, and in a lot of parts of Eastern Europe, the defendant is placed in a cage.
I remember that with Amanda Knox.
Yeah, during
in
the
Italy.
proceedings. Yeah, there's a visual for you, folks.
Yeah, being locked in a cage like Planet of the Apes.
I think
two men enter, one man leave.
I think a lot of it has to do with the way our society is, because of the internet and the 24-hour news cycle. You have such a short amount of time to capture people's attention, and what they see is what they remember. So it's like, they may someone got arrested. Oh, okay, so they must be guilty. Move on. Let's the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they were arrested. They must be guilty.
Yeah, I mean, it's not cool. I mean, this is not Cardassian jurisprudence, but it's our society has gone that way because everyone doesn't really take the time or to pay attention to the facts. It's they hear one thing and they assume everyone is doing their job correctly, and that therefore there's no need to offer another opinion.
That's a great point, that they think they believe that everyone, and again, it's a presumption that you should make, that everyone has done their job correctly. But somehow it seems that when the defense says, hey, a great example is in Making a Murderer. They went through the trailer 6 times before they found this key that is sitting in the open on the floor that they somehow missed the first 6 times. Now, that just seems like a little fishy. And I think I think another big problem, and Jana, you can weigh in on this, is I think people don't get the difference between reasonable doubt and total innocence.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, reasonable doubt and unreasonable doubt. I mean, it's, oh my God, beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's not the standard. The standard is not that they're, pure as the driven snow. The standard is that beyond a reasonable doubt, that they, or rather, if you can't, if there is no conviction, that there was no guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Actually, in the Aaron Hernandez trial, when he was found not guilty, most recently, which of course, as we all know, he had hanged himself afterwards, which is very unfortunate for his child. The jury foreman said, we find you not guilty, but that doesn't mean we think you're innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a good distinction because, a lot of juries get hung up on this. They don't want to find somebody not guilty because they think it's going to give them a free pass. It's that get out of jail free card. Now, granted, yes, they're not going to go to jail on this, but it doesn't mean that you think that everything is hunky-dory with them. And the other thing that I think a lot of juries kind of don't necessarily get, and I'm not blaming them, but one thing that happens in the jury system that we all know is that very often the folks who end up on the jury are the people who were not able to get out of jury duty.
See, I'll be honest. It was last year. Yeah, it was last year, right, Mike? Yeah. When I got my first ever jury summons, I was looking forward to it. I really was, because maybe part of it is because my job, you get it's called jury. It's jury duty leave. And that's something I think that's working for the government. Maybe that's something that they do that most places don't. Where it's when I fill out my time card, it's jury duty, so I'm not being charged annual leave. It's a separate category, so it doesn't impact. It doesn't eat into my vacation time, basically. But it was I take my Kindle with me and had my phone to play games, and if I got called, I got called, and if not, I sat in the jury room for a couple hours and then went home and watched Dr. Phil,
Dr. Phil, Doctor Who. There's a slight difference. I thought you were going to say Doctor Who. Sorry,
real
please
quick,
go ahead.
This last year I also had jury duty summons. It wasn't my first. I get called up every year.
Do you really? Oh,
yeah.
Is that because you're in such a small town?
Yeah, a very small community. So our number comes up once a year, which is the bare minimum in order to to be called up. So, but anyways, up to every year up to this point, I've had my small business to worry about. So I had a built-in excuse why I couldn't. This year, because I'm now disabled, I did not have that that looming over my head. So I was actually kind of looking forward to seeing how far this went. I mean, I never got selected for a jury. I always got, into the courtroom where they're actually starting to do the jury selecting, but that's as far as I've ever gotten. This time I was kind of hoping to go a little further to see what the process was like after that, the initial selection process. But yeah, every year I get called up. So next year I'll get called up, and now that I've got the time, I'm actually hoping to get selected and seeing what the process is like.
Yeah, I just don't get the angst over people saying that they got their I don't get it, but maybe that's, like I said, maybe it's because it's not eating into my annual leave, my vacation days. Maybe if it was eating to my vacation days, that would be different.
Well, a lot of businesses,
yeah, possibly.
A lot of businesses do offer jury duty as an exemption to most other things.
Oh, do they?
At least around here, if you have a jury duty, yeah, you have to go do your duty.
And that's the way it should be.
Again, it could be due to the fact that I'm in a small community. Everyone, if you're registered to vote, you're going to get jury duty at some point during the year.
That's cool. Well, we've clatched the hell out of this coffee, haven't we?
Yeah. Maybe we should
let's
real quick before we move on. Janet,
yes.
Please tell us about Semantic Shenanigans. What have you been doing over there?
What have we been doing? What have we not been doing?
What have you and Shanna been doing together? And please talk slowly.
Oh my!
Wait, I'll get a towel. Actually, the main thing we've been doing is kind of looking for topics and for people to talk to. And last time we talked to a colleague of Shannon's, and we're going to talk to another colleague of Shannon's this coming week. But last time, it was about fans of documentaries. Actually, you would like this, and we talked a
Nice.
bit about. I'm sorry.
Isn't nice?
Yeah, and we talked about Grey Gardens, which is apparently part of Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy's family, the Bouvier side, I think. They were a little nuts, and they were hoarders, I believe, and evidently there's fan fiction about them.
What?
Yeah, and also in the realm of real person fan fiction, there's apparently fan fiction about, no lie, every single president of the United States. And lots
Wow.
of it is
I can
slash.
see that though.
Yeah, because the office of the president is this almost bigger than life thing. I can kind of see the fan fiction side of it.
Yeah,
I don't know why anybody would want it. It's just you, they all age so horribly in 4 or 8 years.
Oh, no
in
doubt.
their time in office, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
horribly, horribly stressful role. I mean, and look at former President Obama. Look at any of them. They suddenly, if they didn't have gray hair before, they've got it. If they weren't losing their hair before, they are. If they didn't have stress lines on their face, they've got them. And because that's just what happens with the job. I mean, even the most happy-go-lucky president, I'm sure, is just up all night dealing with the fact that there's a ton of people seeking jobs and there's all these demands on the press. The thing that I was wondering about is, okay, fine. So maybe you have a thing for the founding fathers, who we have a lot of mythos about. Maybe you have something for Lincoln, who we clearly have a lot of mythology about. Maybe you have something for recent presidents, such as
That you've been alive for.
right, exactly, President Obama or President Kennedy, were larger than life kind of figure.
But Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly. Who the hell is looking for Millard Fillmore slash at this point?
Well,
Bueller?
you know what?
Bueller?
I can almost understand Franklin Pierce because he was our only bachelor president. Yeah, a little trivia for you.
And
plus, it's a great name, Franklin Pierce. It's just a great name.
Aren't those the last two names of Hawkeye? Isn't he Benjamin Franklin Pierce?
Yes, he is.
And that's just an awesome name. There's a great character name right there, folks. Write that down. Baz fanfic, according to Baz.
Yeah, Baz. Fanfic you write about yourself does not count as Baz fanfic.
Supreme Leggett says it comes with a free knife.
God. So you guys are having fun, you and Shanna?
Yeah, we are. And next time we're going to talk about gender in the fan fiction, and not just fan fiction, but just sort of like how and not just gender roles, but also sexuality. And I think in May, it might be June, and I'll have to check the calendar. One or the other, we're going to talk to a couple of indie writers who I know about people who are making the fandom from the ground up.
Wow!
Well,
right on.
When you talk about oh my God, I just had a stroke. Excuse me.
LGBT?
Something for you guys. No. Just something to think about. When we were growing up, Janet, on primetime television, you couldn't show a child in peril.
Right.
As in, like Lost in Space, you could, but you couldn't. Like they would edit out if Bill Mummy or Angela Cartwright screamed because they didn't want to scare the kids. Then flash forward to the change in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where she's getting the
Walking
shit
Dead.
kicked out of her. Yeah, and now The Walking Dead.
Carl lost an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think of that.
That's an interesting. Maybe we'll bring that up as a topic at some point, because Yeah, there's a very different way that we treat children in fiction, in presented fiction, and uh, and that's probably a reflection on how we treat children in society now,
Hmm.
in a way that we didn't used to. I mean, the more I read about the Victorian era, the more hellish it actually is, because the whole children should be seen and not heard. Oh my God, that's absolutely true. That.
Oh yeah. By the way, I don't disagree
Interesting.
with that.
What I kind of find interesting is also that there's also this juxtaposition to it as well, because when I was growing up, violence against children was not really shown, but children were allowed to. I was allowed to go out, and as long as I didn't like come back bloody and bleeding or with a dead sibling. And when the street lights came on, as long as I came in the house, and everyone was alive, it was all good. And
No,
then,
that's a great point.
but
Because
today, we
exactly.
have all this violence on television, yet everyone is latchkey kids.
Oh,
It's
it's not
almost
even
like this
latchkey kids. It's
hovering
bomb shelter
parent.
kids.
Oh,
Yeah. But
Yeah, the
yeah, like
terror
Janet,
of anything.
growing up on Long Island, I'm sure you saw it because in Connecticut I did. Great example. Halloween night. You could not walk the streets. I mean, drive the streets where I grew up because it was just so packed with the kids trick-or-treating.
yep, yep.
Now on Halloween, streets are empty because they're either at a
They're,
school or a church or trunk or treat or something like that.
yeah, they're being driven to locations to do the thing rather than actually hitting the streets. And yeah, I
And
understand.
extorting.
And extorting. Yeah, yeah. There's we don't get we've been in this house now, it's I think 22 years, or it's about to be. And we used to get the doorbell all night long on Halloween. And I mean, granted, we don't leave our light on. It's nothing like that. But that we don't even see them walking around in the neighborhood. You
Yeah.
just don't see it. Then again, keep in mind, I also live in an area where there's a lot of college students, so it's there aren't a lot of people with small children to begin
Sexy college parties.
with. With the strange smelling.
Yes. Okay, so let's move into some news.
Okay.
And with news, I want to combine two things. United's not the only ones that had a bad week last week.
True that.
Thank you, Steve. I forgot that you would be doing that. Uh, United not's the only one that had a bad week last week. Oh, creation. You silly, silly bastards.
Oh, yes. That was a bad idea.
Mike, you're
convention
up on
news.
this, right?
I did see it, a little bit of it. Essentially,
Janet, you're up on it, Janet?
Yeah, they wanted to charge a real arm and a leg for just getting somewhere in the same room as the TNG folks.
Yeah.
from what
Go ahead,
from what I
Mike.
heard, this was there was basically a panel during the day where they would appear, and then Friday night, the Friday night special thing that they normally put on, that's part of your package tickets anyways. They were going to charge extra for that because it was the entire cast together.
Mhm.
And it's
Even golden captain's chair people.
yeah, they were going to charge extra to even gold in captain's chair, and that was bullshit. I mean, let's see. I think last year what was in that time slot? It was I think
One night was a concert.
it was a concert. They've had concerts.
The Pops, right? It was the Pops.
Yeah, the orchestra. I think it was. They've had performers like Darren. I can't.
Yeah, James Darren.
James Darren.
Thank you. They've had, I think they've even had films
Yeah.
in that particular. And again, up to this point, it all had been part of your ticket. Yet for some reason they decided, or they tried, because apparently the whiplash made them change their mind, but they tried to extort more cash out of people, and the ticket prices were. I thought they were insane.
Yeah, it's no, Rat Pack is always closing, Baz.
Okay.
That's always the Sunday night closer. But look, I've gone on before about how certain fans, and by no means all of them, but that get their gold tickets are real jackholes. But by the same token, if someone's shelling out almost $800 per ticket and are then told, oh, well, we've added this thing which originally you thought was on your thing, but now we're no. And
Bait and
there's
switch,
a reason
basically.
G&T will not be at Creations Star Trek Las Vegas this year. And Mike, you could probably speak to that better than me.
Yeah, G&T will not, but Terry and Alan are planning to attend as
hang out with people,
as not part of the show, unless we can obtain press passes. We will gladly cover it, but they are going solely for
socially.
the enjoyment. Yeah, socially. So if Creation wants to put us to work or put them to work, yeah, they'll be glad to cover it. But
the reasoning why,
for friends.
Yeah, the reasoning why is because Terry was trying to give them our money, the money. She was trying to, and they wouldn't even return a single phone call.
Took months and months and months, yeah.
Yeah, the customer service seemed to be truly poor, particularly for that kind of cash. Just there's an order of magnitude of money that they're collecting. They're just raking in. I mean, I don't have a problem with a company running a convention. In fact, it's probably better. It's probably safer, and it's probably more likely to be insured and stuff like that, and union and up to code. But at the same time, this is becoming a cash. This has become a cash grab. It's not in the process of becoming. It's already there. It's a big cash grab. Yes, we got a lot of disposable income among us, but that doesn't mean we should be gouged.
Right, and yeah. Baz said something in our chat room, which I touched on Twitter. He said just the price increases for general has made it no longer feasible. And he's absolutely correct. And I said, if all you're going to cater to now is the golden captain's chair, one, that's just not good business. Two, you're really not serving Trek fandom. You're just serving yourself at that point. And that's where something like the fan-run conventions, and like Janet said, there's the difference, with the legal stuff and workplace conditions and all of that. But I can't wait for Shore Leave, and I love Farpoint because that is fan run, and so who do they care about the most? The fellow fan. But I am excited because we did get our tickets. Are everybody ready for Salt Lake City Comic Con?
Nice.
Ooh, when is that?
I'll be going to that in September, towards the end of September, and my sister-in-law has never been to a convention. She's 25. She's an amazing artist. AE Pacific. Look her up on, I think it's Tumblr. AE Pacific. Her art is just unbelievable, and she's self-taught, and she's so excited. And I'm going to break her cherry con, her con cherry.
Ooh.
So that'll be wonderful.
We did get 2 press passes for AwesomeCon as well.
Yes,
Nick,
so I will be there, and
Nick will be there. Janet, the ticket is yours if you want it, the second one. So
I'm still trying to figure that out. I was trying to rope my my nephew into mailing, into buying for him just a regular day pass. Obviously he's not the press, for his graduation gift, but I'm kind of getting turned down for that. So I'll try to figure something else out.
No problem.
And
it's there if you need it.
In a way,
Thank you.
us not going to Vegas, it allows us to open to some new cons like Salt Lake City going. Now, I'm not going on a press pass, but I will still, you guys know me. I'll still be posting for the show, and I'll try and do a live stream from it and all of that. Not a
Awesome.
live stream, Facebook Live. So, yeah, we got Awesome Con, Shore Leave, which I think Terry and Alan are coming out to. Salt Lake City. Janet she goes to Jewish Con, to Matzah Con.
What?
Oi!
um,
It's tradition.
and even
Shaka
Steve-
Khan.
Shaka
Oh.
Khan.
Yeah.
Nice. Hold on, let's all hold on. I gotta do this slow clap. Standing for you, Mike. I'm standing.
Oh, wow.
Steve has even covered for us over in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're trying, people. We're trying to bring you at great personal cost. Now, of course, we could do a Kickstarter or Indiegogo to buy tires for our cars to go to, the conventions. Oh, wait. Speaking of which, hey, did somebody make their goal?
I think somebody else had a bad week. Wonder who that
Did
was.
Did they?
Did they have a bad week? Yes, they had a bad week.
Steve's just on it. Did you know, Mike?
Oops.
What is he doing? What is he doing? See,
He
Mike,
let
I
it
was
play
at-
too long.
I was about to compliment him, Mike, and give you a hard time, and then he ruined it for himself. This is what I can't say. I can't say what I want to say because it's 2017.
You made him nervous. You made him
did.
nervous. Performance
did.
anxiety.
Oh yeah, his wife told me about that.
Oh,
Sorry,
Oh,
Steve.
boy.
God,
sick
forgive
bird.
me. God forgive me. So yeah, how did our little Kickstarter to fund our lifestyle go?
All right, for those who are not in the know, Axe and R, remember them? That's not the only reason. Why
Are
I'm
they
here,
still a
by the way.
thing?
A small thing, sort of a thing. I'm not sure what a thing it is.
It's always been a small thing.
Anyway, there was an Indiegogo. Actually, it was originally intended to be a Kickstarter, but they switched over to Indiegogo.
Jeez, I wonder why that would be.
Well, I'll tell you why. So they switched it over, and it was actually for Industry Studios, which is the name that was given to the property in Valencia, California, which Alec Peters and his clan had been trying to convert from a warehouse to a studio, and they were doing this on the backs of money that had been donated to them in previous crowdfunding campaigns, totaling over $1.4 million, to make a fan film. And for those who really have been living under a pebble, they were sued. It went on for pretty much all of calendar year 2016. The suit ended in a settlement, and part of the settlement was that they had to abide by the guidelines. Well, they sort of were, and they sort of weren't, because they technically weren't supposed to be doing crowdfunding for their productions. They were allowed to do private crowdfunding, but they were not allowed to do this kind of public crowdfunding. So instead, they were making it for their studio so that they could, quote unquote, keep the lights on and keep paying the rent, which was supposed to be $15,000 a month. Now, people who donated to the Indiegogo were donating for to keep this particular location open. However, the Indiegogo was larded up with all sorts of mentions of Star Trek XNR and yada yada yada, and the Vulcan scene and Prelude and all this other junk. And so basically, the folks who were donating were kind of given a promise of Trek. It was sort of the bait that was laid out for them. But in the writing, it said, "Oh no, it's really for the studio, so we're really in compliance." Be that as it may, they wanted $60,000. They got about $23,000. So, and the campaign has ended. They failed to make their numbers. So they got about 37%, I think it was. The reason why they switched from Kickstarter to Indiegogo is that, number one, Indiegogo doesn't seem to ask quite so many questions. But secondly, because Indiegogo allows for a flexible funding model. And the flexible funding model meant that they could retain everything that they had been given, even though they didn't make their goal. What's happening? I think it's
This is like saying you passed the test even though you failed all the questions.
something like that. You know,
It's pass fail. It's how he got his lawyering degree.
Oh, wow.
yeah, scary. So folks donated this amount of money, and I want to break down the donations very quickly for you. Almost all of the donations came on the first few days, which is kind of typical for crowdfunding. So that's not really that bizarre. But
yeah, isn't it the first like 3 days and the last 3 days are usually
those are your biggies. So understandably, they did mostly crowd into the first day or so. Also, the two amounts that came up the most frequently were $10, which is kind of understandable. Somebody just sort of threw them a tenner, and $137. Now so this bizarre amount can be explained as follows. It was the $125 level, plus whoever it was kicking in another $12, presumably for shipping or handling or crackers. I have no idea. I don't know if it was supposed to be for shipping those perks, which I believe were just a DVD, some patches, and a t-shirt, or if it was just, here's an extra $12 for your troubles. But evidently,
it was for shipping.
Get yourself something nice.
All right, so it's for shipping. You know something? I've shipped my book across the country. And
so wait a minute, Janet. Are
my
you telling me
ships for
that
less than $12?
Not only were you
That's
a
Deanna's
practicing
salary.
lawyer, but you also actually published something? So you accomplished something?
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what also I've accomplished? I don't have to pay rent to anybody. We own this house. There's another thing I've accomplished, folks.
Oh, you're Jewish,
Oh my gosh.
You know what? It's just so funny because I was talking to my wife about it. And she was like, "My God, you love the Jews." I was like, "Yeah, I really do." I was like, if it wasn't for you, I'd be on J-Date.
They keep sending me stuff. Should I forward it?
Yeah. I want a Jewish mother-in-law so bad.
Oh, you can have mine. No, I didn't say that. I never said that.
No, you didn't. I want Howard's mom as my mother-in-law.
Oh my gosh.
You know Howard is my brother's name, for real.
Is it really?
So you would get my mom as your mother-in-law.
That wouldn't be creepy. So you were saying?
All right. So while
I moved on from that.
Okay. So while the concept of $137, here's $125 and here's an extra $12 for shipping, even though it should have been included in the perk level, I might add.
Shipping, aka Deanna's salary.
Right.
No, let's not mention any names, Mike.
So why were so many people in agreement on this? You know what I'm saying? It begs questions. It raises questions, let's just say. Now, with $23,000 or so, what has happened to the fine folks at Axanar is that they are moving. They are rumbling across the country, and they're going to be going from LA area to Atlanta. I don't know this very specifics, but it's supposed to be the Atlanta area. Apparently,
where the roads are crumbling as we speak.
Right, and I don't know what route they take it. Maybe it's through Oklahoma, where the wind comes whipping down the plain. So who knows? But see, there's show tune references in this one, folks. But so however long that's going to take to get there, they're calling for volunteers currently to help them move. I don't know why you're calling for volunteers, folks. You just made $23,000. Could you please spend some of that on actually getting from point A to point B, because you don't have a studio anymore? I also would like to add.
Well, wait a minute. I thought that the landlord willingly took it over.
Of course, well, the landlord doesn't take anything over. The landlord already owned it, because that's what being a landlord is.
It's called eviction.
Right. So the landlord wasn't getting paid, or was told that he wasn't going to be paid. It was pretty obvious he wasn't going to be paid anymore. So, because Axstar, they were turning their pockets inside out and saying, we don't have any money, we don't have any money. You know,
Big
when
win,
you're the landlord. Yeah, big win, big win. So when you're a landlord, of course, what do you want? You want your rents. So they must have come knocking on the door. Obviously, I'm not privy to these conversations, but I do know what an eviction looks like. And they were probably told, either nicely or not so nicely, we want this space. We want it back. If you can't pay for it, I can get somebody else who can. And no matter how you spin this, I just want to leave you with one final thought on this, folks. No matter how you spin this, no matter how much you like or dislike me or the GNT show or Axon Monitor or anybody else for that matter, Michael Hinman, who we told was April 23rd, 2017. For however much you love or hate any of us, here are your 2 pieces of irrefutable information. Number 1, they raised $1.4 million, and actually more than that. That's proven. That's proven, folks. That's number 1. And number 2, they have neither a studio nor a film to show for it. All you need to know. Now, if you really want to go and volunteer to break your back for no insurance to move their stuff, knock yourself out. You're a grown person, I presume. But if you don't want to do that, there's nothing wrong with saying you don't want to do that.
Ah, he's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, he is.
Like
And they wonder why we're
crabs.
still and they wonder why
Wow.
we're still interested and why we're still following this. You want to know why we're still following this, folks? We're still following this because there are still people who think that there's going to be a movie in there. There's still people who are searching through the pile of bullshit or horseshit rather, and think there's going to be a pony. I'm sorry, folks. There is no pony.
How about glitter? Is there glitter?
There could be a glitter bomb, I suppose.
It's just crazy talk. Ah, Mike, is there other news?
Sure. Television news?
Okay, are you asking me?
No. I was trying to give Steve a prompt. Okay, so
By the way, I love the porn music.
let's see. So CBS has no official release date for Star Trek Discovery. They're in no hurry to get this out. They want a great product when they do release it. So they're not putting any pressure on them because it's streaming. It doesn't need to adhere to any date, any real date on the calendar. You know, you don't have to worry about sweeps. You don't have to worry about, fall premieres or, summer premieres. You don't have to worry about any of that. When it's done, they can put it out there. That's because it's streaming, so they're not concerned about it. But some fans are starting to speculate that that because of these continuous delays, they're wondering if it's an indication that things are starting to go wrong. I don't think so. I know, but what I think this means is They're taking their time. They're getting things right. They're they're trying to produce something for a streaming service that I don't think has ever been done before, at least not to this particular scale. Um, so I want them to do a good job. Take all the time you want that's needed to get a great product out there, and yeah. So that's my opinion. A lot of people apparently, or some people apparently, think it's the end of the world because we still don't know when it's going to be released. But hey.
Hey, we are, and we kind of talked about this on our staff meeting chat this week about how some people just cannot accept the shift in movie going and television viewing habits. There was an article this week about a guy basically saying that Netflix is the devil, and it's so horrible that all of these films are on Netflix for people to watch because they're not watching them in the theater. Basically, that's what he's saying is, oh, it's terrible because people aren't watching them in the theater, they're watching them at home. Well, there's a few things about this. Some of the films he was talking about never got wide release. They were only available at film festivals or in New York and LA for a week each. Well, I don't know.
That Netflix is a great distribution plan then for them.
Right, exactly. And now, I had this discussion with somebody about the Electoral College, and they were like, well, New York and LA should decide who the president is for the rest of the country.
Hey, I didn't
Really?
disenfranchise myself by moving away from New York State.
Yeah, and first of all, what an elitist attitude that person had. I couldn't believe that I actually heard that. But secondly, it was only available for a week, like a week in those markets, and that's solely so that they can qualify for the award seasons. So I have found so many interesting documentaries and things like that on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime that I would have never even known existed because they're on these streaming platforms. So,
Well,
yeah, Supreme Leggett says, yeah, Netflix is the reason I'm not going to the theater. Rolls eyes. Yeah, now I'm very, 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 very fortunate that the theater that's a mile from my house is like insanely comfortable. Like literally every seat in it. First of all, you reserve your seats. You reserve your seats. And every seat is like a Barca lounger that reclines and everything. So it's just an incredible experience. But having said that, um, if you're paying $10 to $12 a person a week to go to the movies, you're priced out. That's what
well,
1 month of Netflix where you can binge for 24 hours is.
well, you have to. Netflix isn't the reason why theaters are struggling, okay, or why theaters movie going has in some ways kind of declined. Netflix is a contributing factor, but it's not the main reason. The main reason is that people can buy and own very easily 65-inch television screens, superior high-end audio systems. It's the home theater and people wanting to enjoy films in the comfort of their own home. That has made Netflix successful. That has contributed, not the only reason, but that has contributed to why theaters tend to be struggling. And I think that's part of the problem that this particular gentleman or person was kind of having. I haven't read the article, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But
No, he didn't even talk about that.
Oh,
but
really?
You're absolutely right, because like the TV that we just got this year, I think it's a 60-inch 4K Ultra HD curved television, and we got the sound bar. And you know, it's a damn fine viewing experience. It's amazing. And what's really nice is if I have now, Mike, you know, from my surgeries, if I have to get up and run out of the room because I'm having an attack,
An issue,
I can
yes.
pause it. Yes, we can pause it. And you know, like last night, I watched one of my favorite movies, kind of I don't want to say guilty pleasure because it's such a great movie, but is Dazed and Confused.
Okay. It's a
You've seen
fun
that,
movie.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
I love that movie. Janet, do you know that movie?
It's it takes place in the early 80s. Yes.
70s,
Late
Late
70s. Late
70s.
70s.
late
Okay.
70s in Texas. It's it's a day. It takes place over the course of a day in Texas for high school. An amazing soundtrack. But there was kind of a sequel to it called Everybody Wants Some, and I watched it last night. The picture, it was amazing. You know, one of the things that's so interesting with this TV is, you know how on TV, if you're watching and the screen goes black, you still have all that light in the.
Yeah, it's not like black.
Yeah, well, on this TV, it is black. It's like all the lights have been turned out. That's
Right
the
on.
kind of picture that this is. So it was just fun watching that movie. And, you know, twice now, my wife and I have gone to see a movie in the theater where we were the only two people in the theater. Now, that could be one of two things: our choice in movies, or people just aren't going to the movies.
Well,
Now, I don't want to say
is
that as a rule because Beauty and the Beast was, you know, monster.
yeah.
And there are movies that are monster, but the other thing about this is they're putting out a lot of shit.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's why.
the part the film going to the theater is once again, and initially when the theater experience was fairly new, it was an event type of thing, and it's kind of it's starting to evolve back into that, where it's when something huge, something great, something big is coming out, then it becomes an event, like Star Wars having it return, you know, for episode 7. That was an event. They made $1 billion. I mean, that's just mind-boggling. But it was because it was an event. Because of you know, we've talked about it on the show before. Because theaters are, you know, the movie-going experience is kind of sort of declining. It's forcing them to evolve. They're adding new technology. I mean, IMAX is like default now. 3D is a default now. You know, there are theaters that are offering different types of experiences. You know, so it's they're trying to add to that event experience rather than just, you know, it's because it's easier for people to just stay home, watch Netflix or rent a movie from Redbox or whatever, you know, than it is to, you know, go out to a movie theater, pay huge ticket prices, stand in line for popcorn and you know, all that stuff. And so the theaters are evolving in order to make it much more enjoyable. I think it was last show we had talked about how virtual reality, how IMAX, they were getting into virtual reality by contributing or having that as an added um, uh, as something value added to their experience, to their movie going event. So you go to an IMAX movie, then you can go to the virtual reality area and then play additional content regarding that film. Again, they're trying to evolve. They're trying to make it more enticing for people to come out because it's easier just to stay in Netflix and chill.
Now, Matthew Anderson just put a picture in. With the exception of the trays, that's what the theater where I go looks like.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, that's a whole different experience. And something else that they're doing is like Regal Cinemas, and I'm a little pissed off about this because they're not doing it in Baltimore or DC, anywhere around me. But before Alien Covenant comes out, they're showing the original 1979 Alien on the big screen
Yeah.
in some locations. Now, what pisses me off is, you know, DC and Baltimore aren't getting it. I mean, really? What, they're not big enough markets? That just kind of bums me out. But, like you said, Mike, they're adding things. Um, Regal does something I think is very interesting. Like on the 70th anniversary of a movie or the 60th or whatever, they'll have special things where like Casablanca will be on, or Lawrence of Arabia. And there are certain movies, like if you get the chance to see Lawrence of Arabia on the big screen, by all means take it, because it is an entirely, or The Godfather, it's an entirely different experience, because they were filmed in Panavision, which Janet, remember that when we were kids? Panavision.
Yes, it's well, hell, I remember Sense-Around.
Oh, Sense-Around was the shit. Now it's just called THX. But yeah, so they can start to do things like that, but I don't know. It's just, but bringing this back to Discovery and all of that, the people are going to bitch about what they want to bitch about, and I'm sorry if they're trying to get it right. What is your problem? Track fan, is a certain segment of fans that is really killing my love. Seriously, between the "you're not a real fan" group, between the "this is not what I want" group, and between the anything that's new or different is automatically suck worthy. It's just like, oh.
Yeah. Well,
Harshing the buzz, huh?
Yeah, I think people need to relax. I mean, they want it now, and I can understand that. I want it now too. I want to watch it, but I'm willing to wait a little bit longer for something that's going to be exceptional. And like I had mentioned earlier on, what they're doing, they are producing a high-end science fiction show with all the bells and whistles that comes with Star Trek, okay, for a streaming service. I do not know of any other high-end science fiction show being produced for any other streaming service out there. Okay?
Well, hold on, Mike. Hold on.
Okay.
Man in the High Castle?
It does not have the same special effects.
It's science fiction.
Yes,
You didn't.
but
You said science fiction.
Science fiction with all the bells and whistles that Star Trek has. Is kind of the direction I was, what I tried to say. And okay, so I'm referring to space type of special effects. I do not know of any other program right now on a streaming service that is even coming close.
Would you have considered Stranger Things?
No, it's not on. In terms of its special effects, it's not on the same scale as that's a great story. I love that, and it has some great effects in it. But I don't think it's on the same level, the same amount as what Discovery is what any Star Trek has to offer.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Well, the whole space opera thing, there's a lot of sets and costumes and makeup
Yeah.
with that too, though. A lot of effects.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Very expensive. And like I said, I think this is the only one that's out there, or that's going to be out there. So I'm perfectly okay with them taking their time and doing it right, because for a streaming channel, this is going to be amazing. It's going to open up the door for Amazon, for Netflix, for others to take more riskier, more effects laden chances on some of their shows. Because a lot of what's out there now, there's some great science fiction on streaming services, but they're not effects driven. And I think if this goes well, and I'm pretty sure it's going to open up the door. It's going to be a whole new era for streaming. And speaking of streaming services, CBS All Access, that's how you will be able to watch Star Trek Discovery when it is released. They have just added films.
Yeah, I saw that. Ooh.
Wait, what?
So they are now
Trek
offering
films.
television movies.
Interesting.
I believe they're starting with like 18 titles.
From what studio?
From what I understand, it's Paramount and CBS
Okay.
films.
That makes
studios.
sense, yeah.
But that's the properties that they own.
Right.
But I think I believe they're starting up with like 18 of them, 18 films. The Trek ones should be in the first batch, and they are going to be. I'm sure they'll be adding more as they go along. But yeah, I'm not seeing any mention of exactly what studios or if they're planning on adding other studios. But for right now, I mean,
well, Paramount makes sense because of that whole partnership.
Exactly. So I think it's a bold move, and it's going to be an interesting move. And I'm hoping they are adding value to their package, and I think that's great. So.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
What? That's a bit scary. One of my sisters when she was caught. Oh, I don't know. Baz, why am I paying attention to Baz? What is happening to me?
Pay no attention. You'll be okay.
Pay no attention to the Baz in the corner.
Nobody puts Baz in the corner.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
He's no Woody.
Ooh.
I want to give a shout out to a fan of the show, Sandra Clark Watson. Just saying that.
Hello.
Hi.
But, yeah. Oh, boy. Somebody else take it because I just had a brain aneurysm.
So, yeah. The future of television definitely is streaming, and it's good to see that companies that are trying to that they're thinking about more than just the inside the box, so to speak. They're trying to expand and whatnot. I had seen that Snowman Frost made a comment about how the market is oversaturated. I don't agree. I think it's going to increase even more so. There are a lot of big companies out there that have not gotten into the space yet, and once they do, the competition is going to. I think the competition is going to force things to equalize. What I'm kind of referring to is like ESPN. They don't have a streaming service yet, but it's one of those things that they have to have.
Well, they're in trouble though. Their viewership has declined big time.
Yeah, that's because they haven't taken the steps necessary to.
See, I don't agree with that. There's a couple of things that have happened with ESPN. One, people have grown tired of some of the shtick of the announcers making it more about themselves than the games. it's not about you. It's about what's going on the field, on the ice,
Interesting.
anything like that. The other is, in the last couple of years, they've been putting political commentary in, and a lot of people go to sports to get away from the oversaturation of everything being politicized. And now,
Yeah.
when you're bringing politics into that, look, I don't want to tune into a Yankees Red Sox game and get hit with some political commentary.
I agree with that.
I just
wouldn't
want to
want
see
that.
somebody smushing Don Zimmer in the face.
Okay, you and I are going to throw down when we actually meet in person because
You're going
how
down,
dare
Miss
you?
Auntie.
How dare you? Okay, Pedro was a bully. Okay, so let's just go with there. All right, and don't even no. See, she's trying to get me riled up. Hey, how are the Yankees doing compared to the Red Sox this year? Yeah, that's right. No, but seriously, ESPN's had a lot of trouble because they've been bringing politics in, and that
Interesting.
again, most of the country doesn't care about that when they're watching sports. And the other thing they're doing is, um, let's say a player got suspended for 4 games for drug offense. I mean, that's not an uncommon thing. They'll come back and they're playing and they'll say, um, Mike Medeiros, his first game back after serving a suspension. And that's all they'll say. Well, you know what? Why don't you talk about it? Oh, because the corporate money that's rolling in with the endorsements and everything, they don't want to. And people are kind of tired of that. Talk about it. Talk about the guy that was out for a season before for beating his wife. Explain why he was not playing.
Don't you think that if a company like ESPN, if they were able to go into a streaming service, that would give them a little bit more freedom
No,
to talk about things that their corporate overlords?
No, because if you bring up that player's suspension, then that player won't talk to you anymore.
Hmm.
And it's a brave sportscaster who will talk about it. And
Okay.
we don't have that anymore. That, and I know a lot of people that I know, and there may be an upcoming Gettysburg Address about this with the O Sports Show, are tired of the made up. Okay, here. First of all, if I was in charge of ESPN, the term walk off in baseball would be banned forever. No, it's a game-winning hit. It's a game-winning home run. I actually heard they said it was a walk-off walk.
What that? Okay, that's just that's just being stationary.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Watch golf, and they'll say, "Oh, he found the bunker." No, he hit the ball into the bunker. He didn't find the bunker. Oh, that player is really running downhill. No, the field is level.
He's just running quickly.
Yeah, it's all this jargon and double speak that's just insane. And if you watch European soccer, their announcers don't hold back. They do not hold back. Steve, would you agree?
I don't watch sport.
You're a dingus, Steve.
Plus, it's football. Real
give you a
football. They
chance.
use their feet. It's not like American football where they use their hands. And
No,
still call
that's
it
not what
football
I'm
because they're
saying. I'm saying
confused.
if a player has gotten in trouble for something, they talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they don't pull punches with that kind of stuff. And it's just but I know what you're saying, Mike. But I think the problem with ESPN is it's people are just sick of their shtick.
Okay, so ESPN is a bad example, but
No, it's not though, because that is the sports network. I mean, yeah, there's Fox Sports 1 and NBC Sports and all this, but ESPN is the sports network.
Well, yeah, apparently, obviously, they're having some issues. But the point I was trying to make wasn't specifically about ESPN specifically. It was just that there's still a lot of room in the market. I mean, streaming services. The beauty of a streaming service is you're able to watch what you want to watch when you want to watch it. Okay,
Yeah.
So and right now there's 3 or 4 major players. There's a lot of little ones that are starting to come up. But it's nowhere near saturated yet.
No, there's
Um,
a lot of people who have dumped cable and just gone to the streaming services and are paying a whole lot less.
yeah, and
And if
and
and
there's
if
still a
ESPN
lot
were to
of.
go to streaming, Mike,
Mhm.
I think you'd see a whole lot more people cut their cable because a lot of people only have cable now for the sports.
For the things that are cable only, and then
Yeah.
once a lot of those channels go streaming, you're going to see more. I mean, I think is really what's going to happen is we're going to end up with true a la carte television, and it's not going to be offered by your cable company. It's going to be a stream to your house 24/7. You're going to watch whatever the hell you want to watch, whenever the hell you want to watch it, on whatever device you want to watch it. It's going to be, that is where it's going to be. But the only way that could happen is if they continue to add more streaming channels, not less.
What do you think
Yeah.
if the trend continues? What do you think this will do for like the storytelling aspect for scripted dramas like Star Trek?
Well, I mean, we're already seeing a lot of great stuff on streaming services.
Do,
You
let me rephrase it. I don't mean to cut you off. Do you think we would get maybe a Trek for the family, but then also because like the Marvel Netflix, that is not for kids. Do you think that maybe they would go that route too and give another type of Trek for that, for the 18 and above audience?
It is certainly possible. I mean, I think Discovery is going to be, I don't want to say an experiment, but it is an experiment to see what they can do. And I think once it's successful, and I am very optimistic that it will be, um, that they will be able to do another series. So maybe a totally different era. Have kind of like the what Marvel is doing, where they have multiple shows on all different times of the year, where eventually we could have like 3 or 4 running shows, Trek shows, all different places, times, universes, whatever, but just Trek can support that, and it could be, it could have something that's just for the kids. It can have something, that is, very dark and adult oriented. It can have something that's a little more general purpose, or general audience rather. Trek can support all of that, and it's just whether or not they want to go in that direction, if they want to take those kinds of risks. Um, but with streaming, they have the capability to do what they've never been able to do before.
I think you also have an ability with streaming now. A lot of people said, well, after Enterprise, there was nothing because Trek had been on so long from TNG on all the way through Enterprise, and that people were burned out on it. Well, if you have, say, let's just say, okay, a great example. I'm going to use the Marvel Netflix, the Marvel Netflix. They've had 4 series so far, but it doesn't feel like it's oversaturated. So because you're streaming it, you can choose. Well, you could always choose to watch or not watch, but it's not something that beats you over the head. It's there if you want it, and if this is what I'm saying makes sense. It's not a sense of feeling oversaturated by Trek. It's because you can binge it, not binge it. Maybe I'll watch an episode. Does it make sense, or am I not saying it well?
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it was the viewers, like Supreme Leggett is saying. I don't think it's the viewers that were really burned out. It was the writers were burned out, and they weren't telling the stories that people wanted to watch at the time.
Well, and that's kind of the sad part is the last 2 seasons of Enterprise, they
were starting to figure it out, but the audience
the
had left by that point.
Yeah,
because
that was so unfortunate.
the bitchers and whiners who hated it from episode 1 were so loud that people stopped watching and totally missed out. And isn't it funny now to see the love that Enterprise is getting these years later?
Well,
What
that's typical for most Trek. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Janet.
Well, what I also found interesting was that it sort of seemed cool, quote unquote, in some areas to diss Enterprise and say, "Oh my God, it's so horrible, it's so horrible."
Yeah.
And so people who liked it, particularly people like me who had liked it from the beginning, we felt
Marginalized?
Yeah, exactly. You can't express an opinion about this. So we would keep our mouths shut, and or we would just sort of quietly talk to somebody who might have been reasonable. And then here it is over 10 years later, and people would say, "Oh yeah, it's a good show." Yes, of course it's a freaking good show. It's well written. I mean, yes, there are parts that are dogs. There are parts of all of the series that are bad. All of them. There are no
I
exceptions.
defy you to give me a bad Deep Space Nine episode other than Prophet and Lace.
Well, yeah, you have to keep in mind.
Challenge.
Okay, this has been a trend with Trek. When when TNG came out, the hate. Okay, and then
could Mike have sounded more Jewish right there?
I'm learning. And then here we are 30 years later, and it's beloved. It's something that a lot of fans really do love and adore. Same thing with DS9. It's on a station. We don't want to. It's not Trek. Blah blah blah. Right. So again, same thing. And here we are, 25 years later. It's beloved. It's for a lot of people, it's our favorite series. Then there's Voyager, but
that's a good point. That's a good point.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that has been a continuing thing for Trek. People hate it when it first comes out because it's new, it's different, it's not what we want. But if you give it a chance, you realize it's what you needed.
Daddy doesn't give you what you want. Daddy gives you what you need.
Well, and in virtually all of the series, they took a while to kind of get their audience and find their rhythm and stuff like that. And but this is the society we live in. We want it to hurry up. We want it yesterday, and damn it, we want it perfect from the beginning. It has to be ideal from the get-go, or we're gone.
Mike, you brought up something interesting about Marvel. It really is interesting. Like, they've got their network shows with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then Inhumans is coming. They've got their Netflix series, which I think are superior to pretty much any other streaming series. And Mike and I can probably talk about how I just don't understand the dissing of Iron Fist. I keep saying Power Fist of Iron Fist. I liked it, and I just don't get people saying it moved too slow. I don't understand that. I was watching 3-4 episodes at a time, and it was flying by. But again, that's me plus hot Japanese chick. And then they've got the cinematic universe. So they've got 3 things that they're working on. But again, Disney gets it.
Yeah, and I keep hoping that CBS Paramount. I really hope that they figure it out. I mean, with something like Trek, they can do so much with it. It's such a big, rich universe. They can do so much more with it. Look at what Disney has done with Star Wars. Star Wars was, it was 3 movies back in the 80s. And then in the 90s, they did 3 more movies. And here we are in the teens, and they're, now Disney has it. And we've got, and we've had different animated series. We've had not only another set of the 3 movies in the main trilogy or in the main story, but now we're also getting supplemental.
The set-aside stories.
Yeah, I mean, this is stuff that Trek has built in, and they're not taking advantage of. They need to take advantage of what Trek has to offer.
You're right. You're absolutely right on that.
So I mean,
And it starts in movies for Trek. The director has to get it. They don't have to necessarily be a fan, because Nicholas Meyer was not a fan of it, but he
true.
got it.
But I think again, following the Marvel, the Disney, perspective or way of doing it. They for Star Wars, for Marvel, there's one person that's kind of overseeing all the entire universe, essentially, right?
Yeah. Which and DC has that. Unfortunately, it's Zack Snyder, and I say unfortunately, not as a diss to him, because he's a very talented filmmaker. I need to say that. But it seems he thinks that it all needs to be dark. And that only worked for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight because of the character. Superman is not a dark character. And look, we all know, I've said it a million times, Superman is a dick. I hate Superman. But
I love
he's
Superman,
not a dark character.
Exactly.
That's not why people love him. Wonder Woman is not a dark character. And I don't know if it's because Gal Gadot has such gravitas on screen or what it is, but she has been the only good part so far of the Justice League stuff that they're doing, because I don't know, it's just something. But as much as I hate Superman, Mike, you watch Supergirl, right?
Yes, I do.
The guy that they got to play Superman and the way he was written when he showed up, when he pulled up next to her helping with that plane,
was Superman,
and he said, "Need a hand?" I got goosebumps, because I was like, this is a Superman Ike. This guy has a sense of humor. He's heroic, but not an ass. He had something, and Kara being all giddy that her cousin was there always helps, because Melissa Benoist. But there's a joy in the series Supergirl. Even with the stuff that's been going on lately, there's still a joy.
There's hope and optimism.
Yes.
And that the cinematic universe, that is what it seems to be lacking, is hope and optimism. And that's what these characters really represent.
Which ironically Suicide Squad had.
Yeah. Go figure. I've watched that like 3 times since I've been here.
Isn't it a fun movie?
It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. The characters don't take themselves seriously. But
there are some great serious scenes, like the scene in the bar. The scene in the bar I thought was phenomenal.
They're allowed to have fun, and maybe it's because they're villains, but still, I think that's a stupid reason. Just to have your villains be the only ones allowed to have fun and to crack a joke and to, just enjoy themselves.
And I may be in the minority on this, and I don't care. I really, really like Jared Leto's Joker. It was a modern day Joker, and I really liked it.
He has grown on me. I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't really know what to expect. But yeah, after watching the film many, many times, he is a modern day as dark and evil, brooding, or whatever the hell that they try to do, with their characters now.
Yeah. Now, there was something somebody said up above. Hold on.
But yeah, that with looking at Marvel, there are they
I know what it was. Go ahead.
They have different shows for different audiences, delivered in different mediums or formats.
Yeah. No, mediums is the right word, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I was going to say earlier, Mike, that Jessica Jones, people that say Iron Fist moved too slow, Jessica Jones moved a lot slower by design. Mm-hmm. Because it was, I was at my comic book store yesterday, and we were talking about it, and I hate to use this analogy, but it's true. by the final episode, when she confronts Mr. Purple, it's like an orgasm. Orgasm. I was going to say orgasmic release. Orgasm with the just explosion of emotion and everything. But leading up to, you had to have that slow build and the mind fucking that was going on to get to that point.
Yeah, and I thought my thoughts on Iron Fist, it's with its pacing. I thought it was almost like it was like meditative. It was like, trying to store or draw up, his chi, like what he
Hmm.
does with his power, or to restore his power. I mean, that to me, that's how the show was kind of coming across. It was not really slow, but it was almost meditative, making you wait and being patient, and then all of a sudden there'd be the moment of release, when he used the power, so to
Well,
speak.
and patient is a good word, Mike, because that's what's lacking with viewership now. Patience. Iron Fist, I think you can take it in thirds. The first third is him trying to convince him, hey, I am who I say I am.
Yeah.
Why does nobody believe me? The middle third is, okay, he's here, he's with the business again, we've got these crises. And then the last third is the showdown with the hand.
Him coming, essentially him trying to
Figure out his role.
well, I would say that was like kind of the middle third, or yeah, the middle third. The final third is him actually trying to, um, uh, him not really taking control, but him finally, accepting
Accepting the
his role,
responsibility.
yes,
Yeah.
accepting his responsibility and trying to do the right thing by cleaning up his company.
But they did
So
something with that series that, yes, I was patient with Star Trek Enterprise. I was.
I watched it all first run, and by the
Yep.
time it did get to the third and fourth season, I was pleased.
I
But
really enjoyed first season. I was a little let down by second season. I was totally
agreed,
intrigued by third season, uh, by that. And then fourth season, I looked forward to what
I was
what
begging for
arc
a
are we
fifth.
in now?
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
and I was gonna say, Mike, something else that Iron Fist did that all the Netflix Marvels have done is secondary characters had great arcs and growth. I really
hmm
thought that Wade, is it Wade? I can't remember his name. The his quote unquote brother, the other guy,
yeah.
um, was the big bad. And then of course
I
things
was
got
thinking
turned,
that for the longest time as well. Yeah.
and then you realize how tragic he is.
hmm
But you know what's really funny is you don't hear complaints about the pacing from Game of Thrones fans.
I don't watch it, so I really don't know. But
Yeah, that's one that, and wow, we've waited forever for the next season.
yeah, I mean that's one of the things. Excuse me. Game of Thrones is not on a streaming platform. However, HBO is a streaming platform,
Yeah.
um, as well as, you know. So it's a little bit different than most television. It's kind of it's right there on the cusp of being. It's a hybrid. But anyways, we because of its subscription model, because of the kinds of stories it likes to tell and the way it tells stories, it is very much like a streaming service,
Yeah.
and that gives it a lot of flexibility. It's able to, when it does a show, when it releases something, it they have no set schedule. They can do it however they want. They can take their time,
And
and
they
and
spend huge money. They spend
yeah, they
huge
do,
money.
they do, and
Ooh, Mike,
yeah.
would you consider Game of Thrones, even though it's fantasy, but that is one chock full of the special effects and all of that?
I don't watch it, so I really cannot say. But
Okay.
I hear there be dragons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
that in my book, that's pretty awesome. Um,
And they're pretty too.
but I cannot use that as a point of reference. But again, HBO is one of those things where it's not just a streaming service, so it's kind of little. I don't think it falls in the same category, because it is hybrid. It is, it's got the subscription, it's got the streaming as well, so it's a little bit different in my opinion.
Now
Even but even I from what I've heard, it is very effects heavy.
it
I,
is.
I
It is.
just don't know. I really can't. Really shouldn't comment because I don't know.
Another series that they had that was really expensive for them to make, and that HBO stopped making purely because of the expense was Rome. Just because it was so expensive to make to try and uh, recreate that as amazingly as they did. But okay, question for the G&T show staff. It's a two-parter, so have your pencils ready. You may now open your test booklets. Part 1. CBS comes to the G&T show and they ask you, we are going to make a Trek series, but not a set like a Voyager or a Next Generation, but something a little more specific. What would you like to see as a specific, like a Star Trek Law and Order, or Star Trek uh, Starfleet Academy, something like that? What would you like to see? Part 2. Netflix comes to you and says, we want to make a series based off an existing science fiction franchise. What franchise? Now, Star Trek's obviously off the table because that's CBS. What franchise would you like to see? Janet, we'll start with you.
Okay. Trek. I think I would. Here's a sort of a weird idea out of left field. Quite literally, a traveling sports team in space.
I'm literally
Interesting.
scratching my chin thinking of that.
That is an interesting thing. So it would be like Parisi Squares, or if you want to do something a
The
little more
Niners.
familiar, it could be the Niners.
The Cestus. What was the team on Cestus 3?
You get Cassidy's brothers on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had tried
Go
to
ahead.
write this as fan fiction, and I got bogged down by too many details, and I ended up sort of turning it into something time travel-y, and it wasn't really working. But yeah, I like the idea. I wish I could have executed it better. One of the things that I did come up with was a sport for Tellarites that I called Krista, which was a combination of table tennis and competitive eating.
The Pioneers. Thank you, Supreme Leggett. Interesting idea, though,
Competitive
Janet.
eating.
Yeah, why not? And
I thought you were going to say
Certainly.
table tennis and debating.
Well, debating would be a given with Tellarites, but yeah. It's
Tellarites
still.
trash talking on table tennis. That would be awesome.
with competitive eating.
Yeah.
That'd be intermission, That'd be like round 2, It's like first round you have your debate, second round you have your table tennis with more. That's when the commentary would kick in and the competitive eating would begin.
Now, when you say a traveling sports team, would they be getting in various like Scooby-Doo type things every week, or would it just be them traveling around and we get to see the universe and the different cultures and stuff?
I ended up trying to write them into scrapes, and that really didn't work very well. So yeah, I think that having them kind of go from place to place makes a lot more sense, and I think it's a nicer, it's something that's a lot more sustainable because you can do it almost episodically, and
Yeah.
it could actually practically work like real live regular old episodic television where, if part 4 is released before part 2 for some reason or another, that it almost doesn't matter.
Well, it would be fun too because like here in the real world, it's no big secret that I'm a pro wrestling fan, but I'm just thinking of fans in Japan are so different from fans in the United States in how they react during a pro wrestling match. There's something there. Here, if a guy's a bad guy, not so much anymore because times have changed, but the booing and the throwing of things and all of that. Where in Japan, it gets very quiet. It's called quiet heat because that's how they show they're angry, is the silence. So imagine a Vulcan crowd watching competitive table tennis and competitive eating.
Yeah, the silence in there. And I was thinking almost sort of like, being along on the Traveling All Stars, it was sort of like almost like
The
you know,
Globetrotters?
yeah, the Globetrotters, where or the old Negro Leagues, where they would go from town to town, and because
Oh,
you could also
Barnstormers, yeah.
the Barnstormers, because you could actually get into other things like, what happens if somebody fathers a child and then leaves.
Yeah.
You could have things
Yeah,
like that happening.
and the interpersonal relationships that you have. What if some Klingon hotshot joins the team and starts making an ass out of himself.
He had to say Klingon. He couldn't say Vulcan.
But I don't think a Vulcan would be making an ass out of himself. But
he couldn't say Betazord. Nope, he had to say.
Yes, I had to say Klingon. But I would like to have how would that kind of dynamic, that kind of character
On a team full of Vulcans.
On a team, that already works well together, so to speak. All of a sudden, you have this personality, come along that's very aggressive or very, kind of throws a whole monkey wrench into your organization, and how does that affect
like
everybody
when
on the
Curtin
team?
showed up on
Yeah,
the Enterprise, right?
I think exactly. I think that would be kind of a fun thing to see and do. You have, the characters are their stories too. For instance, one character, he could be writing home to his family who he misses terribly, but he's on a 6 month tour. He's got 6 months of games to do, and he's dealing with stuff from back home coming over subspace. And, you got another guy who's, maybe addicted to, I don't know, Vulcan steroids. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
there's a lot of
that comes
potential
with
there.
this.
There's a lot of potential there. I love that idea.
Now, what's your other franchise that you would tell them?
Lost in Space. Make it with
Interesting.
with better effect, not so cheesy. And there's nothing wrong with it being for kids, and I think actually that could be kind of cool to have a fairly big budget, well crafted space opera sort of show for children.
Nice.
That'd be interesting.
All right, Mike. I know Klingons. You would like to see the Klingons. We know. Okay, next.
For Trek, the I guess the genre of Trek stories that I would like to probably see. Although I do love Janet's idea. I thought that was brilliant and very unexpected. Oh man, this is a tough one because I
Klingons. We all know.
I would like to see different game shows.
This is going in places I never dreamed when I thought of this question.
I mean,
That's because we all took drugs before we started the show.
I mean, I joked about like Klingon fear factor. You know,
Oh God, that's repulsive.
That would be scary. There would be deaths.
Actually, no, it wouldn't be. It's like pet the kitty, pet the kitty. No, I don't want to pet the kitty.
Mike, Klingon naked and afraid.
But you know, I would love to see, you know, kind of, you know, what would a game show be like in or different game shows be like in the Star Trek universe? You know, for instance, can you imagine like Vulcans doing Jeopardy? Or
name 6 principles of logic.
I mean, that'd probably be a boring
it's
show.
The Newlywed Game. Here we have Karak and Valak from Tellarite.
Oh, Newlywed Game would have to be with a society that has that's polyamorous, or that
Denobulan. The
Denobulan honeymoon game. Yeah, there's like six people on the panel, and they're all one relationship.
It's Wheel of Fortune starring the Packlets.
Oh yeah.
Can you make it go?
I make the wheel spin.
But yeah, I think that would be kind of fun, you know. Betazoid Truth or Dare, or I don't know.
To tell the truth, Betazoid to tell the truth.
But I think that would be kind of fun to see. I mean,
Cooking with Neil, Orion Big Brother. Cooking with Neelix. Yeah, cooking with Bobby Flay. Was it Restaurant Impossible with Neelix? The Doctors with Pulaski, the Doctor, Crusher.
Romulan Jeopardy.
Oh.
But
how about your other franchise, Mike?
Well, see, there's so many good possibilities, and I keep going back and forth. Firefly, it never really had a chance. I would love to see that, but I have to say, Farscape would probably be the one that I would choose. I would love to see more stories in that universe. I think there's a lot of possibility there. I just finished a rewatch before coming out here, but there's just so much in that universe that I would love to be able to see more of. And then there's, you know, it could either be a continuation of the story, you know, Crichton's kid, Dargo Crichton, he could be one of the new lead, or they could take it off into different characters. I mean, there's just, the universe is so rich, and I think it would be a lot of fun.
Steve, would you like to weigh in?
Cool. For me, the Temporal Integrity Commission.
Oh, nice.
Sort of 29th century, so loads more tech, loads more CG. And I can just imagine it, sort of every now and then you get, so we've got Janeway at it again. Is Braxton back yet?
Right.
Another curve.
But you could have different teams going to different times, which have everything or nothing to do with what we've seen previously, with small and big connections to stuff. So it just opens things up a huge amount.
I swear,
so
they could even Keeler. I swear to God.
They can even do what DS9 did. Take classic episodes from the various series, and then kind of
investigate them.
Show alternative stories that were going on during those events. I can't think of the name of the DS9 episode, but yeah, they could not only do their own and visit areas of places and times that we've only heard about, you know, in brief mention, but they could also come back and revisit some of those classic episodes.
Steve,
And
I think
wasn't it
Christopher
Trials
L.
and
Bennett
Tribulations?
Trials and Tribulations. Thank you.
Christopher L. Bennett's rubbing his hands together at your idea.
And for me,
I think it was a
the
good
other-
idea.
Of course, it's mine.
Right. Steve, it's only April. Don't push it.
And then the other franchise for me would be Stargate, especially where they left off with Universe. They could have expanded that so much more, and yeah, it was a shame because, of course, with MGM going into bankruptcy and Sci-Fi going to sci-fi and showing all this bullshit sort of other shit they were doing, just it stopped, I think, before it should have.
Is that now?
I do agree.
I've never seen the Stargate series.
Oh,
I was deployed for a lot of that.
yeah.
Is that something that also reached kind of a saturation though, because they had so many series?
Well, no. With Stargate, you'd got SG-1 that went for 10 years, and only for the last 3 was Atlantis on. Atlantis then went for another year, but only after Atlantis was cancelled did Universe go on, and which at that point there was no SG-1 or Atlantis.
With Universe, I think they kind of, compared to what they had done before, they jumped the shark on this one. They went completely different, and the audience, I don't think, was quite ready for it. The other shows were very episodic. There would be serial threads running through, but then here comes Universe, and it's all serialized. And I don't think people were quite ready for it. Not that the audience wasn't, but the fans of that particular of the show, they weren't quite ready for the serialized dark storytelling that they were doing on that show.
Well, the thing is, there was a vocal minority that spoke out about it, but a lot of them were actually people who blamed Universe for Atlantis being cancelled, despite it having no relation at all.
Now,
Well,
Sun says, and I don't know what Universe was or anything, she says, Universe had a good premise, the audience just wasn't ready for a Battlestar Galactica series.
All the people I know who enjoy Stargate, they've watched it and enjoyed it. As I said, it's like sort of the Axanar fan people. They're very vocal, and it looks like they're bigger than they are. But the bigger problem was the way that Sci-Fi scheduled things. They messed around with the scheduling about 3 times during the first series. Even with one of the holidays, the very last episode of season 1, they had after a holiday break, and that was the last episode as well, and they didn't tell people about it. So they go, oh, there's really bad numbers, and it's just like, well, most people didn't even know it was bloody on. They cancelled, They stopped it for a week, and even after the episode, I'd got friends who'd said they never had told us it would be back in 2 weeks. They thought that was the final episode of the season. So loads of people missed it, and then the sort of Sci-Fi used it. Oh, well, the very last episode had really crap numbers. It's just like, well, what the hell did you expect? It's just like,
I think SG-1 went too long. I mean, they pretty much wound down their main storyline, and then they were kind of just floating around for just almost aimlessly for the last 2 seasons or so. And then I thought that was sad, but it was still a lot of fun. It's still a great series, but they kind of lost their way because, well, they defeated their big bad. So at that point, it just kind of fizzled out. Atlantis, because they tried to learn from SG-1, they ended that way too soon, thinking, okay, we're starting to wind things down. Some of our big bads are starting not to be as threatening or not as big of a deal. So let's let's finish up before we just run out of stories to tell. Um, Supreme Legate, yeah, 9 and 10, seasons 9 and 10 in SG1, they kind of did try, and they were trying to explore different things. But um, again, I think by that point, we were kind of, they brought in new teams and stuff. But I think by that point, that series was pretty much on its last legs, despite their best efforts to revitalize. I still watched it. I still loved it. Still will continue to watch it. But like I said, Atlantis by far is one of my favorites, or my favorite out of the three series. And in my opinion, they ended that one way too soon. They could have gone for a couple more seasons, but again, I think they were trying to play it safe with the storytelling. And then they had Universe, which they had ended Atlantis for.
But that's the thing, they didn't. They were already in planning and everything else for Universe well before the people at Sci-Fi and MGM said that it was cancelled.
Oh.
They had intended for another Atlantis series, and they'd intended for 2 more movies for SG1 and
I wish they
one
had.
or 2 movies for Atlantis. But the big thing that happened, one was the move from Sci-Fi becoming Sci-Fi, and the other was MGM going bankrupt. Because of those, and the way that especially Sci-Fi at the time was going into all the reality TV, they were literally getting rid of all sorts of science fiction programs.
Yeah.
And that's why Atlantis got cancelled, and that's why Universe got cancelled. It had nothing to do with the fact that Universe was in production.
Oh, okay. But again, it was also quite Universe was quite different than the other two series. It was darker, it was grittier. It the storyline was a lot more serialized, and for me, it was not. It took some getting used to, and by the time the story started picking up and getting kind of interesting, is right before they canceled it. I mean,
Yeah.
they were just starting to get their legs. They had pretty much unlocked the ship, or most of the ship by that point, and they were starting to see that there were other threats, not just from within. Because that part I didn't like so much, the fact that everyone was at each other's throats. Granted, it's understandable, but for me that was something I didn't like as much. But once
for me, that was one of the draws to it, was the sort of the more reality side of it.
That it was, but I enjoyed it better once there was the external threats coming along. But that's just my opinion.
All right, and here's mine. For Trek, I would like to see, because it could renew itself every couple of years, a Starfleet Academy, showing them, training them, and going on cruises and doing, all of that. Showing the cadets coming in, adapting to life, adapting to maybe living with other cultures, all of that, and showing the leaders of tomorrow. And that's something that could renew itself every few years with new cadets, so you could start off and introduce new people constantly as they graduate and move out, to do things like that. I just think that would be fun.
Right on.
Now there's 2 that I have. One, I would like to see something set in the alien universe, maybe of the colonial marines or something, sent on bug hunts to clean out the infestation, because maybe the aliens have the xenomorphs have, are starting to spread. Yeah.
And this would be like an elite group of the best of the best kind of going out, and interesting.
Yeah, and you have the politics of Weyland Yutani and all of that stuff going on, and I think it would open up. Now, the other it's a guilty pleasure movie of mine that I would love to see become a series, and it's Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I may have seen that.
Jeremy Renner and Gemma Atherton.
I
not
may have
seen them.
seen it. I don't remember it very well.
Oh my God, I think it is hilarious. It's set, back in Hansel and Gretel, but like there's a groupie that has all the press clippings of them, and it's hilarious. And I just think that would be fun because you've got a horror element to it, you've got comedy to it, you got all of that.
Right on.
I just think that would be fun. That's me.
Neat.
Cool.
So, Mike, do we have any announcements? Does Ross have a 20-minute commercial?
He sent me one last week, but we didn't have a show, and it's on my computer at home.
Yeah, is it overcome too?
What?
It has the things he's talked about. It already happened.
Maybe, but I believe that our role playing episodes are coming out. I think this next one should already be available for the Patreon patrons.
Say that 3 times fast.
So episode 2 should be coming out to the general public. I think maybe this coming week. I don't know for sure. Sadly, I didn't get it.
It's fine. It's
don't
Ross.
have his info, but yeah, check out Live Love Play.
And I'm trying to set up to have the O Sports show on Gettysburg's Address because I want to talk to them about some not current stuff, but still current stuff. I have a really good idea, and I think they would be fun to talk to about it.
I think they have a new episode out too.
Okay.
But I again, being here, I'm very disorganized, so I do apologize.
No, that's fine. And Steve has to set up a Gettysburg's Address for me that he's just drooling over. Steve, why don't you tell them what it is?
Yeah, basically, I know someone over Twitter who's also a podcaster who does a lot of stuff on DC, and they are very passionate about Man of Steel and
Batman versus Superman.
Batman versus Superman.
And they're also very passionate on the wrong side of the issue.
The right side of the issue.
The wrong side of the issue.
So I think it's going to be a sort of good debate with sort of family stuff and things going on. Haven't yet had a chance to carry on. Getting on with that, but hopefully you get that sorted soon.
And hopefully Terry and Alan are enjoying Puerto Rico now. Please don't get Zika.
Yeah.
No kidding. Janet, so
yes.
Tell us a little bit more about Semantic Shenanigans. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but tell us more.
Let's tell you more.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, the other thing is that we're doing some extras, some little tiny. They're short blogs, they're like 300, 500 words. So they're really little bites, and they're short videos to go along with them from 5 minutes or so. It's really, really short stuff of just some of these things that we've been kind of catching on our radar. People have been sending us URLs or whatnot of all sorts of things. Thank you, Sensei All. Thank you, and thank you, Ross.
Shocker.
All sorts of just neat things, and so I've been trying to kind of put them into some sort of a logical, little bucket, so that these can be, so that
easily
it makes sense.
digested.
Yes. And the most recent one that I was working on, but I don't think this one's out yet, is about music and kind of copyright and music and fandom. And so a lot of talking about George Harrison and My Sweet Lord and how that had worked out.
Oh, that whole thing.
Yeah, and how Star Wars has been dealing with the law and things like that, fan fiction. So there's a lot of rich veins to mine, as it were, of this stuff. But I'm just trying to get it into some sort of an organized way. And one of them is the first one of those is a crowdfunding. Is Donator Beware or Donor Beware, and or Caveat Donator rather. So to go Latin on you and class up the joint. So. talking about not just Axanar, which is mentioned very briefly, but it's really on the lines of you should investigate this, and this is how it works, and here's how old it is, and stuff like that. Because I really don't want to see anybody lose their money, and if they're going to put their money into into a campaign, then get what you're know what you're getting yourself into, and that there are remedies in case you don't get what you expected.
Just
That's what we're
remember,
doing.
Right on.
can't always get what you want.
But sometimes,
If you try sometimes,
if you
you
try,
know what you might find?
tell us.
You get what you need.
So you can check out Semantic Shenanigans at semanticshenanigans.com. Let's see. You have Twitter, Facebook, also at Semantic Shenanigans on each of those.
Yes, and smoke signals, and there might be semaphore.
Nice.
Real quick, if you want to check out Live Love Play, it's iliveloveplay.com. They have a Twitch channel, I think a YouTube channel, and they're on Patreon. O Sports Show is osportshow.com. And
You can find all of these too on our blbproductions.com, right?
Yes. You got where I was going, so
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yes.
All right. Again, thank you very much, Janet and Steve, for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
It's always nice to have you guys on the show and to hear your voices.
Thank you for waking up, Janet.
Oh, thank you. It was a great deal of fun, and I missed you guys. But I'm gonna be on again on Thursday to do Semantic Shenanigans. But we don't do that live because we have too many issues with the stuff that we record. But and also because very often in the middle of a show a cat walks on Shanna, and then we have to stop everything.
Well, let me just tell you real quick. So I'm playing World of Tanks the other night, right? First of all, there's some fucking stupid people playing World of Tanks. You know, when everybody goes to the left and you leave your right flank wide open and then you bitch because you get steamrolled from the right side. But anyway, I'm playing the other night and it is a really good battle. There's like 1 minute left. Both sides still have like 4 tanks remaining. We're fighting it out. We're slugging. That's when my cat decides to jump up on my lap and put her face right into mine with the old rub against the face.
Oh boy.
Oh, Mochi, I love you.
Yes.
The cat's timing is always perfect.
Yeah, it's sort of the boundary thing.
But this was episode, what now?
275.
Was it really?
Yes.
I swear to God it was 264 2 weeks ago, but that's me. Episode 275.
I've got some dogs looking at me with very hungry eyes, so I do need to get going.
April 23rd, 2017 for Michael Hinman. And Mike?
Kapla!
This was episode 867-5309. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Take care, everybody.
Oh, Greg Kin. No, Tommy Two-Tone.
Tommy Two-Tone, yes.
Tommy Two-Tone.
I'm just here so don't get fined.
Jesus Christ. Jolan True, GNT 275.
dream.